Shalom everyone. Today's video is an introduction on how to understand who is the beast kingdom that made war with the saints in Revelation 13. While there are many interpretations, I will share what I discovered after laying the book of Revelation back in its original scroll layout, plus the entire Bible in chronological order. So I hope you give me a chance to explain, and may God bless you with understanding. My first slide is my outline, showing 5 things I will share to identify the beast kingdom that made war with the saints. It says, "He who has wisdom, let him understand what John saw." First, I will show you the symbolic images on the right side, then briefly explain what I understood in plain language, and later I will create videos on each topic, including arguments, plus explain additional details in my forthcoming book. The symbolism of the vision is quite colorful and pretty amazing. It's about 4 kingdoms that united under one world government in order to turn people from the true God, by creating stumbling blocks and forcing everyone to worship his image or die. So my goal is to help you understand what the image is, starting with the first beast kingdom. It represents the revived Roman kingdom who united with 3 kingdoms from the book of Daniel. The second beast kingdom represents the false prophet and the ecumenical councils of churches, also called Rome's helper. The image of the beast kingdom represents the Queen of Heaven goddess that made Israel sin by bringing her into the first temple that was dead and brought back to life. The mark of the beast kingdom represents the doctrine of Rome, contrary to the doctrine of God, or some might say it's the doctrine that worships the image of the beast. The name of the beast kingdom represents the revived Roman kingdom that is crowning the dragon, plus he gives us a tip. It's a name of a man, Roman. Before I start, I'd like to show you my book of Daniel timeline, a parallel imagery scroll chart that clarifies who is the 4th beast kingdom, because some purposely hinder many from knowing it's the revived Roman Empire, and at the same time, good pastors have been taught other things or not sure. So I hope this helps them stand firm that it's no other than the revived Roman Empire. I discovered it's easier to parallel the vision, like the book of Revelation. The difference between both, Daniel warns us about the 4th Roman beast kingdom in 5 different ways, while Revelation is a sequel of Daniel, warns us in 7 chapters, plus it identifies it in chapter 12, 13, and 17. For example, all 5 columns of Daniel tell us about his vision of the 4 coming world empires that would judge the saints because they did not listen to the prophet's warning, who is empowered by Satan, determined to deceive and kill the saints till the end, under a blasphemous false Christian name. During the 4th Roman kingdom, Chapter 243 says, "In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and consume all these kingdoms." So now let me start by showing you the 5 different ways to read the chart. First is Daniel 2, uses symbolic imagery such as human parts and precious metals. Second is Daniel 7, using imagery of the 4 wild beasts. Third is Daniel 8, uses the imagery of 2 domestic animals. Fourth is Daniel 9, focusing on the 70-week prophecy which foretells that Rome would destroy the second temple in 70 AD and will come again during the 3rd temple, but this time God is going to protect the saints. And fifth is Daniel 10 to 12, using plain language regarding what's determined for the 2nd and 3rd temple. Yet, I will explain the complete chart in a separate presentation and in my forthcoming book. However, if you support my ministry, I will send you this chart, approximately 22 inches by 12 by 22 inches. This slide shows a vivid painting by Marion from the 1500s called Daniel's Vision of the 4 Beasts. It shows Daniel lying in his bed, greatly troubled about his vision. Chapter 7:15 says he wishes to know the truth about the 4th beast kingdom and the little horn, who understands deception and would corrupt the word of God. And 12:4 10 through 10, Daniel was told to seal up the book until the end, implying to the book of Revelation. And it continues, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. And many shall be purified, yet none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Nevertheless, I hope the book of Daniel inspires you, as it did to me, to confirm who the fourth beast kingdom is in the book of Revelation. Because not only does it corrupt the word of God, but it's going to try to set his image inside the third temple and attack Israel. But the good Jews and the Christians will not allow it and fight against this abomination as they did during the second temple. But the good news, this time God will protect them if they consider their ways. This slide shows a map that helps us see the four kingdoms that are coming from the north, according to chapter 13. The first is the revived Roman Empire, also called Gog, who leads his three allies to the Gog-Magog war to the place called Armageddon. The second is the Grecian kingdom. The third is the Persian kingdom. The fourth is the Babylonian kingdom. Plus the church who is crowning the dragon that controls the four kingdoms to attack Israel after they build the third temple, which I hope this helps many prepare for those days. And this is my glossary chapter slide, showing imagery that reveals the Roman beast. Chapter 12 explains the red dragon who gives power to the fourth Roman kingdom, who crucified Jesus around 30 AD and destroyed the second temple in 70 AD, per Daniel's prophecy, chapter 9. Chapter 13 shows the little horn and the four revived kingdoms whose name has been changed to the first and second beast kingdom. And chapter 17 exposes the Roman religion as the mystery Babylon, whom many call the church who controls the Roman beast. And now that I gave you a little background, next I will show you the 5 things I discovered to identify the beast by paraphrasing the chapters as short as possible and adding literal words in place of the symbolic terms. This slide shows the imagery of the first beast that represents the revived Roman kingdom with his 3 allies who made war with the saints. 13:1 in plain language says, I, John, saw Rome rise out of the Gentile nations with 7 kingdoms and 10 nations having power on earth, and in his mind he claimed to be God and has a false Christian name. Verse 2 says, and the 4 united kingdoms which I saw was made up of Rome, Greece, Persia, and Babylon. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. And verse 3 says, and I saw one of his kingdoms as it were wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and the world marveled after the united kingdom under the wing of Rome. And I like to note, verse 3 more than likely came to pass in 312 AD, when the Roman Emperor Constantine divided from Rome, then revived the Roman kingdom in 325 under a Christian name, the Roman Catholic Church. Verse 4 says, they worshiped the dragon which gave power unto the Roman kingdom, saying, who is like Rome, who is able to make war with him? He was allowed to speak great things, including false doctrines. He cursed God, his name, his temple, and them in heaven. Verse 7 says, he was allowed to make war with the saints and force all upon the earth to worship Rome, whose name are not written in the book of life of the Lamb. And if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that goes into captivity by Rome shall suffer. He that killeth the saints will be revenged by God. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Verse 10 implies that God will revenge Rome during the wrath of God in chapter 16, because it's the only kingdom that tortured and killed millions of saints during the church history that anyone could ever number. In the next few slides, I will explain the second beast kingdom that represents the ecumenical councils and Christian churches called Rome's Helper, starting by showing an amazing fresco painting of the debate over what became the Nicene Creed by Francisco in Capitula Sestina. It describes the first ecumenical councils from 325 AD. The Roman Emperor Constantine called the first councils came by the way of peace to unite. Similar to all the four beast kingdoms, they would mix the pagan priests with the saints, and the results are seen in the councils ahead, that when the saints would not accept Rome, accept the Roman ecumenical doctrine, they would call them heretics per 2 Peter 2:2, and threatened to be ousted from the church and could not buy or sell per Revelation 13:17. And yet, precisely what Jesus warned us would happen in Mark 13:9, that they should deliver you up to the councils and torture you. Nevertheless, Daniel 2:43 vision came to pass that Rome was made of iron and would try to mix with the Christians made of clay. But the iron and clay will not cleave one to another. In other words, because the true Christians will not accept the mark, which is a false Roman doctrine. You will know them by their fruits. Verse 11 says that John saw another beast kingdom come out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, looked like a Christian church, but he spake as a dragon. In other words, this is he who deceived by setting up councils, then killed millions during the Catholic Inquisitions. 12 says, he exercised the power of the first kingdom. He deceived and forced many to obey Rome, whose deadly wound was healed in 325. He does great wonders, deceived, killed many in the sight of men. Nevertheless, these verses confirms why they call the ecumenical councils Rome's helper, because 13:12 says he does everything in the presence of the first beast, referring to the false prophet from chapter 19:20 and 20:10, whom God will destroy at the end. Nevertheless, church history shows it helped Rome set up the Catholic Inquisitions. They also hindered from knowing the truth by censoring books that expose Rome by buying out publishers. They controlled the liberal news, yet in the past they tortured those who would not obey Rome, confiscate their property, and kill them. This slide shows Rome's helpers, logos, so you may warn your church or question if they're sleeping with Rome, because God will avenge them and those who accept the mark of the Roman doctrine. The first logo is a painting showing the Emperor Constantine, accompanied by the bishops of the First Council of Nicaea in 325, holding the Nicene Creed. The second is the World Council of Churches that organized in 1937. The third is the National Council of Churches, began in 1950, yet there are many organizations connected to Rome on their websites. On the right side, I created a symbolic image for each one because they dress like a lamb but are wolves in sheep clothing. Nevertheless, they are snakes that are paid to sneak into your church to deceive you to trust the first beast. The next few slides explain the third tip that identify the image of the beast kingdom, representing the Queen of Heaven goddess. 14 says that he, the ecumenical councils, deceived them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the Roman beast, which had been wounded by a sword and did live. And 15 says, and it caused many that as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. In other words, verse 14 shows that the ecumenical councils were commanded by Rome to cause people to worship his image, and in the next slides I will show you what she looks like. Let me show you a couple images of many from Babylon. These are 2 clay seals showing the goddess sitting on her throne, claiming that her father gave her heaven and earth, and that she is the Queen of Heaven. Next is a painting I found in Jerusalem, inside the Catholic Church of St. Peter in Gallicanto. A few blocks away from the location, they will build the third temple. It's the image of the Roman Mary, the Queen of Heaven, goddess, sitting on her throne, claiming that her father gave her heaven and earth. Basically, when I was a Catholic searching for truth, I spent 8 months in Jerusalem and found out that the Catholic Church has over 100 in the Israel, which I'm trying to warn people that they're preparing to set her image inside the third temple that will cause the war of Gog and Armageddon. The third image on the right side is also the Roman Mary, the Queen of Heaven, sitting on her throne, which I took hundreds of photos while I researched Rome and the Vatican for a month. The main point to this slide, all three images represent the Queen of Heaven, but they changed her name in order to get you to worship the image of the beast kingdom. My next slide is my three temple timeline charts. The first, the second, and the third, showing why God pronounced his wrath. The first temple was destroyed in 586 BC because the false teachers seduced King Solomon to set the image of the Queen of Heaven inside the temple. The second temple was destroyed in 70 AD because the Roman beast kingdom mixed the priesthood and tried to set his image inside the temple and force everyone to worship the Queen of Heaven. But the Jews and Christians fought against it, and the Roman beast kingdom cursed God and burned down the temple. And the third temple is not yet, but coming soon, and I'm trying to warn you that the revived Roman religion who's crowning the dragon will try to set up the Queen of Heaven inside the third temple. But the godly Jews and Christians will fight against it as they did during the second temple. In other words, I'm trying to show you the image and the beast during each temple period. And if that is not enough proof, check out my coin comparison chart, signifying that kingdoms are personified as women goddesses, suggesting that Revelation 13 is warning you about the Roman beast and his image, as I wrote the phrases in different ways in the hope you'll see it. On the left side of my chart are the Roman kings and his image starting from 63 BC, and on the right side is the revived Roman kingdom and his image starting at 325 to present time, which I'm trying to warn you that from the first ecumenical councils and during the Catholic Inquisitions, they forced millions to worship Roma, the city, and the goddess of Rome, or die. And if you need additional proof, check out this photo I took when I was searching if Rome was the fourth beast kingdom or the Mystery Babylon religion. It's a monument dedicated to the city and the goddess Roma that I found approximately a mile away from the Vatican. It says Roma or Muerte, translated in English, Rome or die. Nevertheless, I have hundreds of photos on the subject that I will show you in other videos or check out my coming soon books. The next few slides will be on the mark of the beast that represents the Roman doctrine to worship the image, which is contrary to the doctrine of God. Verse 16 says, He, the Ecumenical Christian councils, cause all to receive the doctrine of Rome by showing your works, or by receiving it in your mind. Verse 16 tells us that the second beast deceived many to receive this doctrine or die. That includes the catechism and volumes of theological books that have no end. And if you'd like to confirm what receiving the mark on your right hand means, simply read the warnings to the 7 churches. Jesus repeats, I know your works 7 times. Plus, 2:14 confirms that many have good works, but will go through the great tribulation if they accept the Roman beast mark, because they trusted the false prophetess Jezebel, which means Church of Bel, pointing to the Queen of Heaven, goddess son named Bel, who seduced many to worship the image of the Queen of Heaven and her son inside the first temple. Jesus said all the churches should know I am he who searches the minds if they accepted the mark of Rome. This is like the days of Ezekiel, chapter 9, when he saw the angel searching the people's mind before he destroyed the first temple. And 17 says that no man might buy or sell except he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Nonetheless, church history proves that the ecumenical councils and the Catholic Inquisitions would not allow many to buy or sell unless they accepted Rome's doctrine or obeyed Rome's beast religion that's crowning the dragon, or worship his image, the Queen of Heaven. Also, I'd like to clarify that the book of Revelation is not telling us to search for the Antichrist, but to know who the revived beast kingdom is, so you will not fall when they build the third temple. Next, and the fifth tip, is to identify the beast kingdom that represents the name of a man, Roman. Verse 18 says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the Roman beast kingdom, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And in another presentation, I will share how the legend of the she-wolf saved the founder of Rome, who is connected with the name of the image of Guadalupe. Furthermore, this slide shows you a photo of the Vatican, where I spent a month and found the dragon being crowned per Revelation 13. And if you subscribe to my channel, I will show you lots more with no misunderstanding of who the beast kingdom is that made war with everyone who would not accept Rome's doctrine. In my conclusion, the first beast represents the revived Roman kingdom, who united with the three kingdoms from the book of Daniel, whom some rightly call it the New World Order under the Roman Empire. The second beast represents the Ecumenical Christians, because he warned us that he does everything in the presence of the first beast, including hindering from knowing the truth, and dresses like a Christian. Nevertheless, Jesus warned us to test them by their fruits. The image of the beast represents the Queen of Heaven goddess that made Israel sin by bringing her into the first temple that was dead and brought back by the ecumenical councils. The mark of the beast represents the doctrine of Rome versus the doctrine of God that was created by the ecumenical councils. The name of the beast represents the revived Roman kingdom and its religion, because the entire book of Revelation warns us about a kingdom that is crowning the dragon. With that said, I'd like to end by reminding you that today's presentation was an introduction to understand who the beast kingdom is, and later I will create videos for each topic. So I hope you help me reach billions of people by sending this presentation to your friends and by asking your pastor to invite me to your church or a conference to share my scroll charts. Nevertheless, please support or pray for my ministry that focuses on uniting, preparing people before they build the third temple, and teaches difficult scripture that some misunderstand or false teachers hinder from knowing the truth, so you won't run weary when these things happen. I want to thank you all, and please email me questions and let me know if you like this presentation by giving me a like and share with your friends. 2, subscribe to get notified for my next videos or schedule events. 3, support my ministry to make it better, and I will send you one of my charts. And lastly, I pray that God gives you understanding, wisdom, and boldness for the love of God and truth that gives us hope in heaven. God bless.